Roll call.
Parker, here. Miscellaneous.
Here.
Bergen.
Here.
Zettergren. Here. Chisel. Whittle.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Right. Excuse me. Number 3 on our agenda is the law enforcement life-saving recognition. Chief Time?
It is an honor to stand before you guys again tonight to share some really good news. In a world that's kind of full of craziness, it's really an honor to just focus on something good. And I'm not really sure if it's coincidence that we get to do this a couple days after Valentine's Day, Heart Day, if you will, but it does really make this recognition ceremony really cool. Tonight, we get to honor a couple law enforcement officers and a couple telecommunicators, the 911 dispatchers for Winnebago County, for their life-changing and life-saving service. I have to be honest, in my history of almost 30 years of doing this job in policing, the stories related to emergency medical interventions that are successful in actually saving lives are few. And there are statistical reasons to explain that. Like less than half, roughly 40% of all cardiac arrest patients receive bystander CPR. Around 70% of Americans are hesitant to perform CPR, either due to lack of training or lack of confidence in their training that they've received. That really means 3 out of 10 people will administer CPR if you go down. CPR can double or triple the chances of survival after cardiac arrest, with survival rates varying between 9% to 45%, depending on circumstances. Timeliness counts, we do know that. The sooner CPR begins after the cardiac event, the higher the chances of survival for the patient. Additional statistics provided by the National Institutes of Health, among other sources, state that the survival rates with CPR alone are only 9%. Survival rates climb to 38% when an AED is added. One's chances for survival increase to 74% if the first shock is delivered within 3 minutes of collapse, with an overall survival rate of 70% with a combination of CPR and AED use. These stats show the critical importance of skill, learn CPR, timeliness, be ready and willing when that call comes, equipment, have an AED, and then know how to use it, and definitely make sure that that AED is charged. Since July of 2023, when I arrived in Decorah, I have had the opportunity to stand before you guys several times with success stories, sharing great news of lives saved by the men and women of the Decorah Police Department and our many partners like the Winnebago County Sheriff's Office, the WinMed Ambulance Service, the Decorah Volunteer Fire Department, the Winnebago County 911 Communication Center, and the Winnebago County Emergency Management. Lives are saved because all of these agencies I mentioned have people who are trained. They have the right equipment, and they are ready and they are willing day and night to respond to that call. If Officer David Barrett, and actually I'm going to have Lieutenant Byron Hook come up here in place of Deputy Logan Hopp, and dispatchers Isaac Phillips and Jake Schatz come up front, please. On December 17th, now I was going to play a 911 call for you because I thought this will be good. I'll get you guys ramped up. You guys will get excited. You're going to hear the chaos, but you're not going to hear any of that because you have professionals, dispatchers, and officers who took that chaos and turned it into calm. You wouldn't hear anything but professionals really just minimizing the emergency that was happening and the chaos going on behind the scenes. So I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis of what happened that day. On December 17th, 2025, at about 4:53 in the afternoon, the Winnebago County Communication Center received a 911 call of a man down, not conscious, with irregular breathing in the 600 block of Pearl Street. First responders and ambulance were paged. Medical information is obtained from the caller, and everything is getting documented by dispatch. Law enforcement hears and goes direct on that call. By 4:03, so 3 minutes later, dispatch is notified that CPR was in progress by those that found our patient on the ground. So bystander CPR is being performed. So 3 out of the 10 happen to be around our patient. We're pretty lucky here in Decorah for that. Our victim has now beat the odds. CPR has begun within 4 minutes of him collapsing. Law enforcement arrives to assist with CPR, and they brought with them their equipment, that valuable AED. The scene begins to fill, ambulance personnel and first responders, everyone doing something to improve the chances of survival for this victim. By 16:16, or 16 minutes after 4 in the afternoon, 15 minutes after the original 911 call, 15 life-changing minutes, that patient is being transported to the emergency room by our ambulance service. Medical staff have already requested a helicopter, and law enforcement, the county law enforcement, is en route to notify the patient's family. By 4:36 p.m., law enforcement is cleared and they're back in service. We talk about statistics, survivability, training, readiness. We can chart it, we can diagram it, we can record the events in minutes and seconds, sanitizing the reality of what actually occurs during these calls. It really does help make it easier to move on to the next call a mere 35 minutes later. But to save a life, the ability to give the gift of time, the life saved can be considered simply statistical data, or we can see that life saved for what it really is: a husband, a father, a friend. The list can go on. So really, the gift of time is given to him and to his family. This means another Christmas together, another New Year to celebrate with time to make plans. It is truly a rare gift, and when it can be given, it does require recognition. We are lucky enough to have the life saved here with us this evening, Mr. Jim Creek. And Jim said that he would like to say a few words to you tonight. Jim?
Hey, I'm going to try to put it in a blunt perspective to begin with, so everybody understands what these guys did. I was dead for 6 minutes. Officer Brett was one of the officers that brought me back. I have to give recognition also for a person that's not here, which would be, well, a couple of people, like you explained, Officer Sheriff Hopp, and the gentleman that did the CPR, Derek Elwood. He wasn't supposed to be there. He was actually off work. He stayed an extra 15 minutes to get his 8 hours in because he was back early. So the greatest thing that I have to thank is God, because he put everybody in place so I could be here today. I don't know what else I can say because I don't have any more words, but normal dad could talk forever. But I'm surviving. 25 days in the hospital. Most of it, the broken ribs that you get when you give really good CPR. And as far as the guy Derek gave to, he was a paramedic. He did work at Gunderson at one time with them. They knew who he was. As soon as they found out that he did it, they said, "Oh, he's one of us." So I'm just thankful for everyone. This gentleman here that was here as well, that's not you. That's you. So I don't know what else to say, except all these gentlemen here deserve a round of applause. All of these guys deserve a round of applause. I thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to get your awards here real quick. Ultimately, the reward for the work that all emergency responders do lies in the happy endings. These stories represent why we do what we do, and that is enough. But as a leader of those that choose this job, that hold on to the success stories to get through the other stories, it would be remiss to not recognize their work and the results. So David and Byron and Logan and Isaac and Jake, thank you for your skill, your dedication, your diligence and service, and certainly to Mr. Creek on December 17th and to all of Winneshiek County. We are a greater community because of you and the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone involved. Next on the agenda will be number 4, Decorah Historic Preservation Commission Annual Report given by Adrian Coffeen.
Hello. Good evening, council members and mayor. I'm Adrian Coffeen, a member of the Decorah Historic Preservation Commission, and I'll give you a brief summary of some of our 2025 activities and accomplishments. We meet once a month, and during these sessions, we discuss the C3 applications which pertain to preservation. In 2025, almost 30 individual C3 recommendations and consultations.
Shall we proceed?
Yeah, I do have staff at the ready over there that should, somebody on there. I'd encourage you, if you're joining via Zoom, please put your name up if it's not already, so that staff won't. We're going to be quick to react to make sure that we don't have another episode like that again. So that's our ask.
Adrian, I think you
Okay,
can continue.
are we ready?
Thank you.
Okay, I'll just start at the beginning of that paragraph. I'd like to focus on the excellent working relationship we have with the historical organizations in Decorah. These organizations include the Decorah Genealogy Society, the Winneshiek County Historical Society, the Porterhouse Museum, and the Luther College Library Archives. This cooperation was evident when we created a large panel sign giving informative texts and photos of the 1875 Steyr Bridge at Twin Springs Park. This is where it cut off. The May 2025 dedication included a speech by Steyr's great-grandson who traveled from out of state. A thank you to the city of Decorah for funding and installing this sign. This summer, look for another large panel sign written by our commission. The sign features the history of the 1879 Bowstring Arch Bridge. It will be installed next to the historic bridge at Trout Run Park. These two informative signs, added to the existing Decorah downtown panels, highlight the Decorah Valley as a scenic place with an abundance of interesting history worth preserving. Thank you, council members, for supporting our commission. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Adrian.
Adrian. Thank you.
Okay.
Number 5 on the agenda, public comment. If there's anyone who wishes to address the council as a whole, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address. You have up to 3 minutes. Travis will give a 15-second warning. Yes, Kevin.
Kevin Lee, and welcome from Freeport. The reason I stopped here, I don't need to take too much time up, but there's Iowa Public Information Board training for newly elected and appointed officials on February 18th of 2026. And it will be at 12 p.m. And I'll leave this with you so it has a website. I think it's important because there's so much talk about commissions and how things go along with that and process. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Hello there. My name is Brennan. I live here in Decorah. I'm reading on behalf of the Decorah Community for Immigrant Rights.
Excuse me, can I get your full name and can you spell your last name and give me your address too, please?
Brennan Allsworth, Allsworth. Address. 719 Decorah Avenue.
Thank you.
On Friday, February 13th, some of us were there. The Decorah City Council had a special meeting to appoint new members to the Decorah Human Rights Commission. That meeting only happened because people organized. Calls, emails, and public pressure forced attention onto a process that was unfolding potentially without transparency. Community engagement made this conversation unavoidable, and that is exactly why organizing matters. What happened next should concern everyone. Who gets appointed to the Human Rights Commission and who doesn't matters. Two applicants who supported open discussion about the separation ordinance were not appointed or even contacted about the status of their applications. The former chair of the commission was removed without any communication from the city. Meanwhile, other applicants were invited to apply, receiving direct outreach from the mayor before ever submitting their names. These are not small administrative errors. They shape who gets a seat at the table and who is shut out of public life. The special meeting was held during working hours with no public comment, shutting residents out of the process. In the days leading up to the meeting, residents raised concerns about how commissioners and applicants were treated. Rather than acknowledging the concerns, city released a statement during community experiences, dismissing community experiences as misinformation and outright falsehoods. That behavior breaks trust. The city's boards and commissions are nonpartisan civic bodies. Mayor Carlson stated at the special meeting, they exist to advise, not to advance ideological, partisan, or revolutionary agendas of any kind. We reject that premise. Human rights work is not neutral. This framing disregards the power imbalances that human rights work exists to address. When marginalized communities advocate for their rights, they are not refusing to build trust. They are demanding that trust be built on something more than the comfort than those in power. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bren.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mariah, and I live in Decorah. I'm continuing the statement from Brennan.
Name and address, please.
Mariah McCain, Decorah.
So this is
okay?
not, it is part of our council rules procedure. Address is actually required for the minutes.
Okay, 218 Riverview Drive, Decorah,
Thank you.
Iowa. Right. Marginalized communities cannot choose neutrality in a society that politicizes their very existence. Their lives are examined under a microscope, controlled through policy, and reduced to talking points, while their humanity is treated as negotiable. When communities speak up against systems that harm immigrants, that is not extremism, that is democracy. Calls for neutrality too often mean evading difficult conversations where the weight of these issues fall back into the laps of those most deeply affected, marginalized communities. When advocacy for immigrant rights is framed as disqualifying, the message is clear. Voices pushing for real change are unwelcome in official spaces. Desir believes it is important to speak plainly. When many people expected that the Human Rights Commission would create a space for real dialogue about immigration enforcement in Decorah. With a reconfigured commission and a mayor pushing neutrality, one question lingers. Will the Human Rights Commission still advocate for community-driven dialogue on immigration policy? The path forward now seems uncertain. When the separation ordinance came before council last August, residents showed up ready to speak, but council meetings allow only brief comments and no real dialogue. The deeper conversation never happened. The Human Rights Commission planned a public forum for February 17th precisely because the community needed a space for honest discussion, especially as we watch communities across the region, including Minneapolis, confront escalating immigration enforcement. That conversation must not be delayed or suppressed. DECIR calls for transparent, consistent, and democratic appointment processes for city commissions, public accountability for how commissioners and applicants were treated, public meetings that allow real participation, not symbolic inclusion, the reinstatement of Joshua Rattel Khan so he may complete the service term previously granted by the community and the city, and recognition that human rights advocacy is not a conflict of interest, it is the purpose of these commissions. Human rights work does not exist to maintain comfort or avoid controversy. It exists to challenge injustice and amplify voices that power tries to sideline. DECIR will continue to organize, educate, and build community power. One meeting will not end this conversation, and one commission will not determine whether our community fights for immigrant dignity and accountability. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mariah.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Seeing none, hearing none, we'll move on to number 6, unless there's any comments by the council, anyone?
What? Yeah.
Okay,
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
sorry. 6, city manager, department head, and council reports. I was just saying if anyone wanted to respond to the public comment section.
Well, we don't usually, do you want us to respond to public comment now, or do you want us to do it in our?
You can do it during
Do
your
it.
council reports, I apologize.
Okay,
Do you want me to start, Mayor?
That's fine, Travis.
Okay. So, as also just confirmed tonight, so no meeting of the Decorah Human Rights Commission on Tuesday, as only 2 of the commission members said they could attend, so no formal meeting could happen as a result. I did receive a follow-up phone call from one of the members of DCIR that asked about using this space for them to meet as an outside organization. We do have an established policy from February of 2018 that actually does not allow for outside use outside of normal business hours. So that was an established policy from February 2018. Want to be clear on that as well.
I have a question about that. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What if 4 elected officials wanted to have a meeting? We don't have time, do we? We'd have to post
You'd
it.
have to post that as an agenda, which is why we held the special meeting on.
Right, right. I mean, I'll say this in my comments. So there isn't a way, even if 2 public officials wanted to be here. Okay.
I mean, unless you want to excuse me to post one here in the next 15 minutes. But again, it would
think we
be,
have an
it'd be a
alternative, so I'll
council
say
work
my- I'll say my
session
public
and
comment.
like 15 minutes to throw a meeting together. I don't know.
No, that's okay. I'll say what I think in my
All right.
comments.
So first legislative funnel is this week at the State House. So any bill that is not essentially tied to money, anything that's out of appropriations or their budget, that has to have passed out of committee of the House of Origin by the end of this week to be able to still be alive. Number of bills out there. You've heard me talk about ones in the past, such as requiring local elections to be partisan. There's a number of bills out there around libraries and library boards. 2 additional ones that I want to draw attention to. One is Senate Study Bill 3114, which is it's being called a use clarifications bill for hotel motel tax for tourism development and promotion. If this advances and is adopted in its current format, I think it would jeopardize our current 2080 agreements we have with Decorah Jobs. And the hotel motel, that would still be fine. But I think it would greatly jeopardize the Decorah jobs funding stream because it says the city cannot recognize parks and recreation as part of that 50% of the tourism related activity. Yeah, so that's where it's going to throw a wrench in a lot of things when our own tourism draws of the city, just because they're associated with the city, we can't count those towards the 50% statutory requirement for hotel, or excuse me, for tourism related activities.
What?
Yeah. So, we're being told there's a possibility for an amendment on language, but the amendment we're being told is on physical infrastructure, that they don't want cities to use it for physical infrastructure associated with their parks and recreation.
Are cities banding together, forming some kind of like lobbying
Through
effort?
the Iowa
You
League
need
of Cities, yeah.
Us to make a statement right to,
Well, it's always a good idea to reach out to your locally elected officials, this time at the state level, and say, hey, you know, a very large portion of that goes to maintain our park system. I do believe this is a twofold bill. One, it's not so much as somebody's doing something wrong and they want to stop it. It's with the changes in property tax legislation that are being proposed, they're worried that cities are going to utilize hotel motel tax revenues more to offset those loss in revenues. And so this is a way to hamstring cities to be able to use those revenues for their own operations.
Travis, can you again say where that legislation is in the process?
It's on the Senate side.
on the
Senate Study Bill 3114.
And has it been assigned to subcommittee?
I believe so. Yep, actually, it subcommittee recommended passage, so it's now at the committee. Now at the committee level.
could we make a, is it far enough along that you think a press release on this is important? I mean, I think if all of Decorah knew that this was literally going to jeopardize our funding stream for our park rec department. I
So
think-
this is where it gets a bit hairy with whether the city, it would be something that potentially the city council could take formal action on. I would not encourage that at this point until we see what comes out of committee. That's where we're being told amendment is likely to happen. Let's let it come out of committee, and there's definitely still time if it makes over the House side. Speaking quite frankly, the House and the Senate don't necessarily always get along. And so we can definitely reach out to the House side as well to get an amendment, which would then send it back to the Senate. So there's that one. And for all those also curious out there, Senate File 497 is City Executive Discharge Procedures Reform, which says that I can be fired by simple majority of the council, which is already the case. So the good news is we are solidifying that at the state level, that a simple majority fires me.
The other one,
Pause, so I feel good.
more troubling, Travis.
Yeah,
Way more troubling.
Good. Yep. That's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you, Travis.
Yep.
Department heads?
Can we get
Yes.
can we get an update on the downtown water leak? And I have some questions on that.
Yeah. So, this morning I was made aware, as well as, then received phone call from one of the affected businesses that had to have the main shut down as part of the repair on a water service for the business down there. It's the former Donlin building, Edward Jones, that building there. It was a 3/4 inch copper service that can we confirm, Todd, was that part of the mid 90s? Yep. So
Street project.
99. Okay. So that's 27 years old. That's actually pretty consistent for water service lifespan, 25 to 30. So what we're going to see, and we've already seen a couple of these pop up, and they're really exponentially worse when it's a high demand water user business. This doesn't explain Edward Jones' situation, but we've had some other ones where it's a 3/4 inch copper service line for restaurants, for bars, for places with high surge water demand usage, which further deteriorates the copper service. This one was extremely thin and was replaced with 1.5 inches service. So they did go all the way back to the corporation and replace with 1.5 inches at this point.
How many more, I mean, how many times in the last 4 years has that section been shut down? Because I feel like this might be the third or fourth of Water Street.
Might be a third, I'm thinking.
Yeah,
And how?
over the last 3-4 years, T-Box has had two,
Yeah,
because they did a spot fix the first time. And then it started leaking again, so they did it again. Coriana has had one, Rubiata's had one, Magpie has had one.
and have we always replaced with 1.5 inches?
That's their choice. Some have been replaced with some have went with two, some have went with one.
Okay.
Depending on
Figured.
what they intend to go with.
Do we have sort of an estimate? Have we sort of replaced Water Street's 1999 3/4 inch pipe for the most part, or do we think this might keep happening along Water Street?
Well, this will likely happen to other properties along the way. And like I said, especially those that if they're high demand water users and they're operating on a 3/4 inch service line, it's like trying to drink a thick milkshake through a straw.
Is there a way to be proactive and change these out so that we don't have to have city blocks in our downtown area and shut down for a day?
Depends how you want to go about it. If you want to try and coordinate it as a citywide effort, are you saying try and coordinate between all the individual property owners, or?
I guess there's a part of me that I did hear from businesses today, and I went down there, and I guess I do feel their concern, right? That first of all, this is an area where they can't get insurance, so they're now on the hook for a $20,000 bill. I think that hurts everyone in Decorah. So I guess in my mind, there is some solution that I'd like to come up with if we think this is going to continue to happen. Because to me, I think it needs to be a further conversation. So I guess if it needs to be on another agenda, I understand it, but I would like to see some attention brought to the Water Street water service area if this is going to keep happening, and also just that area where businesses can't get insurance, yet the infrastructure from 99 isn't sufficient to meet the needs of, 2026 and the use that we have on our water line there.
Yeah. And so I think what I hear you getting at is, and this is what I explained to one, not the affected, well, it was one of the affected businesses, but not the one that the water service went to. There are essentially two baskets that a community falls into when it comes to service delivery like this. Either the city, and when I say the city, by that I mean the ratepayer, because there's no money tree out back that we shake the money tree and that's how we pay for things. We collect rates, we collect taxes. So the ratepayer would then, if what we do is the city is responsible for the main only. Everything outside of the main is the property owner's responsibility. This applies to water main, sewer main, either way. By doing that, you have less infrastructure that the city, i.e. the ratepayer, is responsible for maintaining collectively, so we can keep rates low, which again, I would encourage anyone that questions how our rates stack up against anybody else, go ahead and take a look. I'll put money on it that we're in one of the best spots. The other basket is that the city is responsible and maintains to the curb stop, to the end of the property line where the right of way meets the property line. And that there are some that do that. That number is fewer. What that means is just more infrastructure for the city to maintain. And so rates have to adjust to account for the additional revenue need to maintain that infrastructure. So what it does is essentially, instead of the property owner having the responsibility all the way to the main and one potentially large bill every so many years, instead everyone's rates go up just a little bit to collect all that revenue to then turn around and repair these as they happen.
I guess in my mind, I'd like to have a discussion because personally, I like the second model better. Like, I do think that we have a responsibility to the city to pay to the property line, especially knowing that property owners can't get insurance. There's sort of a dead zone for them. So while our businesses, it's, a $20,000 bill, to repair this is pretty steep for anyone. And I think, as I said before, I do believe that our downtown businesses, we all have a collective interest in a thriving Water Street. And I'd hate to think about fewer restaurants in Decorah because of, infrastructure that was installed in the 90s that isn't holding up. And so therefore they have to close their doors or raise their prices or make it so that our community, I think, would overall suffer if our businesses are suffering down there. So in my mind, it's worth a look at our rates, that a little increase in a rate to help offset what we know is failing infrastructure in our business areas. I think that's important.
Travis, when was the last time we did a water rate study?
Formal one. Well, technically the one we did for the SRF water would count. That means the water rates are sufficient to cover operations plus the debt service, but that does not take into consideration future capital costs associated. So I couldn't tell you the last time the city has had one to that level that we take into capital projects, but we have historically, short of the last 2 years, analyzed them at budget time. And so it's been 2 years since we've done that. And that was largely in anticipation of this water meter project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a difficult conversation without some scenarios played out to actually understand overall cost expense to ratepayers.
It's a similar conversation we had when we did Maine and we talked about the street infrastructure and who really benefits from street infrastructure and how we assess homeowners when we redo streets. I feel like this is a similar conversation when it comes to water infrastructure in our business areas in terms of who's really getting the benefit and how do we share the costs, because I think it's not just a business getting the benefit, but residents are as well. So we don't have to continue it tonight, but I want to make sure this comes up because I think we need to do something on this area, in this area.
Same. I think, yeah, taking steps to protect our downtown businesses. When I had business downtown, I rented, so it wouldn't have directly affected me, but it's such a struggle for beginning businesses that no way I would have been able to do anything about it. So, yeah, some kind of funding that is there as like a safe, safe catchment for people that are going to have to deal with it. So I'm for continuing the conversation as well.
Or we just start replacing our 3/4 inch line because it's probably not going to hold up to what we have, the water use that we use now.
Yeah, I'll talk more with you two in particular and anybody else that wants to talk more about it, what it looks like on a future council, because it kind of sounds like you're talking the commercial side only, or is this citywide, user-wide?
I'd be interested to know. I mean, we've talked a little bit about residential responsibility and where they're responsible to, but I think anywhere that there's significant water infrastructure where the owner of the land adjacent to it is unable to acquire insurance to cover it, to me, that's a conversation worth having in terms of where is that and what is the collective good, right? I always think like, what is the collective good of this area for the entire community of Decorah? Water Street, hands down, is a collective good for all of us living here, as much as our parks are. And so I do believe that we have a collective responsibility to care for it, especially infrastructure that helps the businesses thrive there. And if there are other places in town that we need to be looking at this one just happened to pop up. And I happened to be like, wow, this block has been closed. This isn't the first time this block has been closed in my second tenure. So, and as I said, I did hear from businesses downtown who this really hurts them. So.
All right.
That's all I had.
Okay. Any of the department heads wish to share? Seeing none, council.
I just want to mention that I've been having listening sessions Tuesday nights at the landing from 5 to 7. And so far I've done 3 of them, and it's been really, really great. I really enjoy interacting with people that live in Decorah here. I always prefer to just have like a conversation with people, especially in situations that's not like this behind the diocese. I don't I would rather sit across the table from somebody and have a conversation with them than this. This is this authority, like this idea of authority makes me uncomfortable. I've never thought of myself as an authority person. I'm just somebody who's stepping up to try to do my part in the community. And I think it's often it kind of gets lost that we're volunteering. And I like having conversations with everybody. I don't think that there's a single person in this room that I couldn't have like a conversation that we could laugh with one another and come to come to an understanding. And I really try to promote that, and I really enjoy just talking to people. Like, yeah, I think that we can all come together on things, even people who I disagree with, even people that may be, pissed off at me for not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I think that if we could have a conversation, we could come together, because I don't hold that against anybody. I understand that each one of us in here has a very unique story and lots of things attached to how we feel about the world, how we interact with it, how we interact with other people. And I'm just eager to learn that story about everybody. And I try not to get like too worked up in my own story to not be able to hear others. There's also been a lot of discussion about keeping things nonpartisan, which I can understand where that comes from. I also just, we have a lot of issues going on with our country right now that it's beyond partisan. It's no longer red team versus blue team. It is some serious things that are coming up that we can't let the discomfort of discussing these things take away from actually discussing them, because they need to be discussed. And I mean, the only reason I found it difficult to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance is because of the last line. The liberty and justice for all is just it's so inaccurate. I can't say it with a straight face, and that's not disrespectful. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody who has, put their life on the line for it. It's just, we got Epstein files coming out that show that there's not justice for the people who deserve it. There's not justice for the people who should face justice. We've lost the concept so much that it's easier for a large population of our country to believe that the tens of thousands of people in Minneapolis are all paid agitators versus just people who care about their neighbors and want to protect them, are willing to die in the street for these people. And the fact that I went to Minneapolis every weekend in January, and I was just blown away by the amount of support and love, and just a city that loves their immigrants, that loves their neighbors. And then to come back and hear on the news people downplaying how much these people care, downplaying how concerned we should be over it. It's frustrating. And I think that we need to be able to talk about these things, and everybody has their place and their role to play in it. And these are important issues that we need to discuss. So big respect for everybody in this room, everybody out there. Thank you for listening, for patience. And I would love to talk to you. And I'm at the Landing every Tuesday night from 5 to 7. That's it.
I'm just gonna jump in there then with some of my comments. I just learned, actually sitting down at the diocese, I opened up and realized there wasn't going to be a Human Rights Commission meeting on Tuesday. And I actually thought that when we had our meeting on Friday, the purpose was so that there would be a meeting on Tuesday. I just learned that. And I can't change that, but I can agree, and I asked Cody, I will be at the landing on Tuesday, at 5 o'clock with Cody. And willing to listen and have a conversation and engage. So just want to be open and clear about that. And I also was one of the people who pushed for this time because I think it's weird to have public comment and then no feedback. So I will give some feedback that I do think it's important that if you have concerns about a commission appointment, reach out to your council people, right? Reach out to the mayor and ask why. Because I think it's easy to imagine something when you're just seeing one side, right? Or you're just, I get what optics look like. I also know that there's a lot of internal discussions and internal things that happen, not because of lack of transparency, but because of interactions that have happened. And I think the city, in an effort to do our part, we had this meeting on Friday, and like I said, I did not know that would lead to not having a meeting on Tuesday. And so my number's posted. Anyone can call me about the appointment issue. I don't want to get into that now. And I mean, Josh, if you want to call, we can discuss this. I'm perfectly willing to have that conversation or to show up on Tuesday. Is it okay if someone talks to me? I don't know the rules.
Prefer that we don't go out of.
Call me or you can stop me after the meeting. Sorry. Okay. I'll stop there.
Anyone else wish to share?
I really would like to resonate on something that Cody said. At the end of the day, yes, this is an elected position, but we all do it in a volunteer capacity. And I don't think any of us got involved to do any wrongdoing by our community. I think we all got involved for community betterment and to see our community grow and do things that benefit not only our community as a whole, but the people that continue to call this home for the future. I know that's why I got involved. And I think we really need to go back to that core basic that, yeah, it is an elected position, but we all are volunteering our time to give back to this community and be willing to have the conversations with us in this capacity. Because at the end of the day, I know all of us want to listen to what is going on, especially if it does allow for overall betterment of our community. And I think at times, just with recent developments and some of the conversations that we felt that were occurring, we felt like that communication may not necessarily have been outlined with us completely. And again, going back to, we all are in a volunteer basis. Like, we want to hear from you and have that community connection and do things for the community, just like all these community groups want to bring great attributes to our community. But we can't do that if we're not willing to have the conversations and find that common core interest.
Thanks for everyone who came and shared feelings and comments in public comment, and who also engaged with me primarily via email, but a couple face-to-face conversations. And I think words matter. That's what I heard, right? I heard that words matter. And both in how we share words that may sound defensive or words that may sound confrontational. And so I'm hearing a lot of let's listen and let's talk. And I want to say we need to do something because I don't think serving on city council is about listening. It's about participating to make our community a better place. And so I'll repeat what I called for on our Friday special meeting, which is that we need a clear charge for Human Rights Commission to understand what is the expectation and the possibility for this commission. And that needs to be coupled with a similar amount of staff support and city council connection as other commissions we have. And I believe that the Human Rights Commission deserves as much support as others. And that seems to be one of the factors that has brought us here today. I think that what some people might call messiness and disagreement, whether that's in person or at this podium or on social media, that's democracy, right? That's what we're here for. And I say all of this to say that I'm not someone who aligns with all of the calls to action around how we could support immigration rights that's coming from Desir or from others in community. And I think we can do something, right? And without leadership bringing us to a similar table to have those honest conversations and see overlap and really talk about what can the city of Decorah do to protect the diversity of our community and tell our immigrant neighbors that we care for them while considering their safety and their ability to thrive in this community. And I'm just not seeing places where that dialogue is happening effectively. And HRC could be one part of the Venn diagram that would need to be at the table to make that happen. When I get overwhelmed, I think about the future and I think about young people. So a couple calls out. Y'all, we've got some really good athletes in Decorah. So some wrestlers, some swimmers, like there's great stuff going on. And I've been excited to celebrate that and follow that. The pause at the fire department fundraiser to watch Lauren wrestle was really great. There are also really great young people who are strong in arts and communication. If anyone has a few hours this Saturday to volunteer at the individual speech contest that's being held here at the Decorah High School, we would love some room chairs. We'd love some timers. A couple of hours listening to teens pour their heart and soul into the messages that they wrote or that they chose because they're meaningful is just soul filling. So I'll be there all day. I'd love to see some of you. I'd be happy to connect you to those opportunities. I think intergenerational connections in those spaces are especially beautiful for our community. And then just a quick shout out, $70,000 for the Decorah Fire Department is not a little bit of money. So just a really big thank you to the community who helped curate that event. I did not win the kayaks. I'm gonna get over it. And also just kudos to everyone who came and attended and gave freely.
Anyone else? I will also try to meet, if that's all right, if I piggyback off your event tomorrow.
Let's make it a party.
All right,
Yeah.
sounds good. To
Not
address some
too
of the
big of a
concern.
party.
Yeah, yeah.
Does the mayor count? Does the mayor
Not
count
too
as a
big of a
quorum?
party.
though? Does the mayor count as part of the quorum?
Mayor does not, but
I think so.
yeah,
Okay,
3 council and a mayor starts to get iffy.
Okay.
It makes me worried about future conversations.
fair enough.
Makes John even more worried.
It's also pizza night, and Daryl makes some bomb pizzas. So I didn't have the foresight to plan that, but it worked out that way. So pizza party.
All right, so moving on, number 7 on the consent agenda. Travis, could you please give the consent agenda?
All right, item A, minutes of the January 22nd, 2026 meeting. B, minutes of the January 26th, 2026 work session. C, minutes of the February 2nd, 2026 council meeting. D, claims. E, renewal of Class E retail alcohol license, High V. F, change order number 1 for the Decorah wastewater treatment plant improvements project. G, resolution setting a date of meeting at which it is proposed to approve a development agreement with DREF 105 to 109 East Water Street LLC, including annual appropriation tax increment payments. H, approval of amended FY25 annual financial report. And I, appointment of R. Ivy Riggs to the Decorah Tree Board. Term expires 12/31/28.
Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
I'd move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Silenich, seconded by Neil. Discussion?
Rather than removing it, I just wanted to observe that there's the item in there about the Anniston building. And just, I've encouraged council before, and I've had conversations this last week to the same effect, but I really think a place where we could strengthen our city and strengthen projects like that, both from a financial and a city building point of view, would be trying to tease apart our requirements for downtown commercial throughout the the C3 district. That building has many square feet on the ground floor that are really far away from any address side on a major commercial thoroughfare in the city, and yet our code requires that the entire bottom floor be devoted to commercial uses. I think that this is a place where I'd love to see our Planning and Zoning Commission maybe take this up too. It might be too late for this building, but I'd like to see us, maintain that commercial requirement for the historical commercial district that the address parts of Water, Winnebago Court, and Washington. Maybe for the first 50 feet of a building, but to require that this developer spend a lot of money building out commercial spaces that may no longer be as necessary as residential spaces given Decorah's current market needs. It seems like a miss to me. And so that's just encouragement to council. I've said this before, and maybe I'll get it on the agenda coming up. And I just wanted to point out that this is a place where this project might have penciled out better or more quickly if we hadn't had that requirement that the entire bottom floor be commercial. I don't know if you've been inside of it. I encourage you to get inside of it if you ever have a chance. It's a large space with a lot of possibility for the city, and maybe there's going to be a great commercial use there, but I think we should leave that up to the developer, except for the part on the street. So that's where I'm at.
Thanks, Steve.
That goes along, and I didn't bring it up in my public comment, but you brought it up. I do think, and Travis, tell me the procedure. If PNC doesn't bring something up, but we haven't something that we want to do, can we do that, or we just have to wait for them to bring it up?
Yeah, so you'd have to send something to them that you want them to consider. They could vote on it after setting a public hearing, or they
Okay.
could actually vote to not even set a hearing. And at that point it's rejected, then it would take 5 out of the 7 of you to override it.
Okay. I mean, I do think that the Amazon Hub discussion has brought up back this idea of a separate, somehow changing the districts in the downtown area from C3 or figuring out a modification there. But I do think it's important that we start to look at our downtown area, Water, Winnebago Court, differently than we do the entire C3. We've talked about it. I think P&Z is going to bring it up again, but if they don't, I feel like we should discuss it.
And overall, I think what I'm hearing is we need a strategy that's not project specific. So adding it to my list of really good reasons why we should redo a comp plan.
Yeah, agreed.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Linich?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Parker? Aye. Bergen?
Aye.
Zittergruen?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
All right, consent agenda has been approved. Moving on to item 8, discussion and possible action on Dayspring Lane Performance Pavilion. Jim and Liz Fritz.
Jim and Liz, you wake up.
We're there, yeah. Can you see our slides?
Not yet.
Yes.
Give me a second.
Okay. All right. Let me know when you're ready, Travis.
Can you hit, thank you, Mike.
Thanks for logging in from the beautiful North Shore. Oh,
Yeah, that's where we are.
mhm.
Okay, great. Thank you. So good evening and thank you for allowing us to zoom in from the Minnesota North Shore. We're up at our town home on Lake Superior. And I want to also thank Mayor Carlson and City Council for giving us the opportunity to share our ideas with you tonight. Our presentation is a little over 15 minutes, and we ask you to hold any questions to the end. My name is Liz Fritz, and I'm here with my husband, Jim Fritz, and we lived in Decorah for 40 years. We spent 28 of those years teaching in the Decorah schools as band directors, and this community has truly been our lifelong home. This project has been growing in our mind for many years. It comes from our experience as educators, community members, and people who care deeply about what Decorah can continue to become. Tonight, we're not just presenting a structure to build. We're presenting an opportunity to create a central green space downtown, a performance venue for students and community artists, a permanent and welcoming home for the farmers market, and a space designed to sustain itself financially over time. Next slide, please. We've organized our presentation into 3 simple parts: the why, the how, and the possibilities. Next slide, please. While Decorah has wonderful parks throughout the community, the heart of our downtown doesn't currently have a true green gathering space. Right now, much of that area is currently dominated by concrete, parking, and underused space. We know that having green space available reduces stress, promotes physical activity, improves air quality, lowers urban heat, and manages stormwater, all of which support public health, environmental sustainability, and local economies. Next slide, please. We also lack an outdoor performance space that reflects the talent and vibrancy of this community. For years, groups have tried to solve this in different ways, but there still isn't a modern, accessible outdoor venue where students, musicians, and community groups can perform comfortably. Jim has worked on this issue for many years through community committees and location studies. It has also appeared in the past city planning efforts, including the 2022 North Alley District Master Plan, which included an amphitheater. Next slide, please. The farmers market is an important community asset. It supports small farmers and serves as an informal gathering place, sometimes with music. But it operates in a parking lot without permanent shelter, restrooms, or infrastructure. Nearly 20 years ago, a significant effort was made to create a new inviting space for the farmers market. Unfortunately, that effort was unsuccessful. This proposal brings those needs together into one solution. Next slide, please. Here's where sustainability becomes important. As city budgets become more constrained, we believe that any new initiatives should attempt to be self-sustaining. Our proposal includes enough solar energy creation to power the plaza and potentially generate additional energy that could be sold through a power purchase agreement. The monies received through this type of agreement could pay for maintenance, management, and insurance throughout the 30-year lifespan of the solar arrays. Next slide, please. What we're offering tonight is a way to bring several long-standing goals into one project: downtown green space, a performance pavilion, an improved farmers market, public restrooms, and long-term sustainability. Next slide, please. This project truly offers something for everyone. The green space could become an anchor near the center of town and near schools, with space and opportunities for different arts and activities. And the farmers market would finally have a home worthy of their significance to Decorah residents. We believe this is a multi-use plaza, and if you build it, they will come opportunity. Next slide, please. The how. We want to be very clear about this next point. The project would be funded through private donations, grants, and fundraising. Work would begin after the Hively project is completed, and no city funding is being requested. Our purpose this evening is to request the opportunity to partner with the city, to use the site, and to access utilities. Next slide, please. This is a graphic of the site proposal. The green space is directly below the co-op parking lot. The new farmers market location, indicated by the red boxes, would occupy a portion of the woolen mill parking lot while still preserving the required parking of the woolen mill. The placement and architecture of the pavilion in the lower left-hand corner complements this site. It occupies an underutilized space and enhances the new farmers market location. This proposal transforms the plaza into something active, welcoming, and visible, just 150 feet from Water Street. Next slide, please. And this isn't just a beautiful project, it's also designed to sustain itself. The solar canopies and pavilion roof would generate electricity that can offset operational costs and potentially provide revenue through a power purchase agreement. In practical terms, this means the plaza could power itself and potentially generate revenue to help cover management, maintenance, and insurance costs for decades. Next slide, please. Now, let's take a look at what this could become. The following slides present conceptual renderings based on Jim's design ideas, illustrating potential possibilities. I'll invite Jim to walk you through this portion. Next slide, please.
Another one?
Oh, Jimmy, got to unmute your microphone.
Mike, you might be able to help him out with the mouse down there.
Jim, if you can hear me. There we go.
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you. All right.
Oh, muted again.
Click what you just clicked.
Muted again there, Jim.
Thought I unmuted. Okay.
There you go.
I'm sorry. This is my concept for the Performance Pavilion. What you're seeing is an early rendering intended to illustrate the idea, not a final or exact design. The roof is designed to be an entire solar array, and the stage walls are wood. Both of these surfaces provide great acoustics. There would be no permanent audience seating in the green space, thus allowing for flexibility of use. But lawn chairs could easily be used for events. Next slide, please. These pictures show different possibilities for materials used in the pavilion and plaza. The pavilion elements include bifacial solar panels, limestone, and thermowood, which is a treated weatherproof wood product. The plaza could use natural landscaping and art sculptures. The focus will be on using quality materials for lasting construction and ease of maintenance while maintaining requirements for aesthetics and a desirable acoustic space. Next slide, please. This rendering shows a proposal for the farmers market woolen mill parking. There would be 36 spaces for the farmers market, including currently they use 34. There would still be 19 spaces for the woolen mill, including 2 handicap spaces, as per the agreement with the city. The dotted lines indicate the amount of overhang of the solar canopies, which are 27 feet deep. The canopies maintain a minimum of 15 feet over the roadway to ensure semi-trailers and city snow removal equipment will pass safely underneath. Next slide, please. This rendering is of the type of cantilevered solar canopies for this proposal. The supporting columns are enameled steel and can withstand possible damage from vehicles. As mentioned previously, solar energy from these canopies would support a PPA contract between the city and a potential buyer, which could provide up to 30 years of revenue to support the plaza. Next slide, please. Part of the how has to include funding. As mentioned previously, construction would rely on private donations, grants, and community support. All private donations would be processed through the Community Foundation of Northeast Iowa. There will be many avenues for grant writing possibilities pertaining to city green space creation, public performance space, enhanced farmers market, proximity to the school campuses, sustainability, ADA compliance, and more. Next slide, please. We have visited with many members of the community and adjacent businesses about this proposal. We've listened carefully to concerns and shaped the proposal to respond to those concerns. Next slide, please. So, is this the right space? We believe this site makes sense for several reasons. It is in the heart of the city, away from residential areas, and has good proximity to parking in the immediate downtown. Some have asked if the noise from the traffic in the new circle intersection will be a problem for the pavilion. Our experience is that it wouldn't be a problem. One of the most stunning outdoor pavilions in the country is at Millennium Park in downtown Chicago. It is in the heart of the city, surrounded by police and fire sirens, helicopters flying overhead, and the hustle and bustle of a major city. Audiences don't seem to mind the surrounding activity, and we certainly don't whenever we attend. The pavilion needs to have its back to the sun for maximum solar gain. Additionally, the stage cannot face south, or it becomes a toaster oven unbearable for the performers. Having the pavilion and farmers market adjacent will provide opportunities for performers during farmer market days. The green space would be available for picnicking or gathering. Also, having the farmers market adjacent to the co-op continues to enhance both entities. This area is currently dominated by hard surfaces. Introducing green space would help reduce heat, improve stormwater absorption, and make the space more welcoming. The green space is just 100 feet from Water Street, which would enhance the entire downtown business district. The pavilion could provide city restrooms in the heart of downtown. The plaza could provide a wonderful gathering space for anyone enjoying our city. Next slide, please. We want to be transparent about parking impacts and address those concerns directly. This proposal would reconfigure the lot, reducing some spaces. Historically, the lower co-op lot is not used for much downtown parking. It rarely is more than 1/3 full. This is valuable real estate in the heart of the city that is largely underutilized. According to Adam Riley, the activities director of Decorah High School, the largest events at school include district playoff games for football, no more than 2 per year, and commencement. These are probably the only times this parking lot fills. Usual attendance at school events is about 1,000 people. The new elementary school will include 50 new parking spaces much closer to school events, replacing the 48 spaces lost in this proposal. The 500 parking spaces immediately surrounding the school campuses will easily handle the overwhelming majority of school events. The concerns raised on lost parking will be satisfied with the new parking near the elementary school. Parking isn't being lost, it's being relocated closer to school activities. Next slide, please. Our proposal would include establishing a memorandum of understanding with the city. We would provide build-ready architectural plans for the city's review and approval, and all plans would be designed to meet applicable codes and requirements. We would also prioritize working with local contractors throughout the construction process. Next slide, please. Our proposal would be managed through a nonprofit entity, the Pavilion Market Plaza Group, which will operate with 501c3 status. All donations would be administered through the Community Foundation of Northeast Iowa to ensure transparency and strong financial stewardship. To lead in this fundraising effort, Liz and I would personally want to make an initial donation of $100,000. We're sharing that commitment because we believe in this project personally, and we want to lead by example. We're confident that there are many others who see the value in this proposal and will step forward to help bring it to completion. As previously stated, the majority of funding would come from private donations, along with a range of potential grant opportunities. At this time, the total projected cost for the full proposal is estimated to be between $1.5 and $1.75 million. Next slide, please. Several deadlines associated with this project will require timely action to avoid delays and the potential loss of significant funding opportunities. Depending upon the final design, there may be opportunities to coordinate efforts with the city during the Hively project, creating possible synergies in planning and construction. There is also a limited window remaining to access the Inflation Reduction Act credits available to nonprofit organizations. Once completed, this project could qualify for more than $300,000 through these credits, but they require action within a defined time frame. Our goal would be to begin construction in spring 2027 with anticipated completion in late fall of 2027. Next slide, please. Yep.
Thank you, Jim. Can you guys hear me still?
Yes.
Great, thank you. In conclusion, this proposal has the potential to become a significant addition to both the immediate area and our downtown as a whole, especially alongside the remaining renovations to Hively, the redesigned Circle intersection, and the new elementary school. It will bring sustainability, creativity, and beauty to our city. It reflects a shared vision of enhancing downtown with meaningful green space, an outdoor performance pavilion, and an improved farmers market experience. Importantly, this would be accomplished through private donations and supported long-term through solar energy. This has been a long-held vision for us. After 40 years in this community, we hope to give back by helping create a space that will serve future generations. We believe this project reflects the future of Decorah: thoughtful, sustainable, and community-centered. In short, this is a privately funded project designed to create public space, strengthen the farmers market, and sustain itself for years to come. Tonight, we are respectfully seeking the city's partnership and permission to move forward with a formal proposal on this site. We want to thank you for your time and consideration tonight, and we would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
First, I just want to thank you, both of you, for bringing this to us, and for your dedication to the Decorah Community School District and for all the years that you've served many of my friends and family. I'm excited about this program, or this possibility of this project, and with minimal financial impact on the city. I think that this is a no-brainer if it does not cost the city much. So I'm just curious what everyone else, if you've had time to meet with the Fritzes, I know they've reached out to a majority of you, what your guys' thoughts are on this.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Jim and Liz for their presentation. It was really well thought out and put together. And secondly, I want to acknowledge that there's a lot to consider moving forward on this. And I know that we're kind of coming out of a project fatigue, and looking at John specifically. Well, everybody, yeah, really, honestly. But so I want to acknowledge that, but I also am very excited about the possibility that this presents us with. Also, the financial, it being privately funded. I know that we also have another donor who would really love to pay for a splash pad, and it seems like if we could combine forces into this same centrally located place, then that would kind of answer the question that we've been batting around about where to put the splash pad. I think it could save money for the city of Decorah, not having to rent a stage for Nordic Fest every year. One of the main things that I hear from people is that we really need a centrally located green space, and this would cover that. The university town that I lived in California, Davis, they had a fantastic city park connected to a farmer's market, and they had picnic in the park every Thursday night and bands, and it was just, it was a beautiful community situation. And since moving to Decorah, I've thought like we really need something like that, and this is like a perfect possibility for that to happen alongside with the public restrooms, which I know that we were talking about with possible acquiring of the when we were talking about the fire department and the municipal building downtown. That was one of the things that we were considering, is that would be beneficial for having a public restroom possibility. And so, yeah, I think it seems like a very exciting, yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer too, but I know there's a lot to consider and a lot of people that deserve to weigh in on it, the co-op specifically, and anyone that, has issues with parking, because that comes up a lot. But I would like to give it my personal full support in at least continuing the conversation about it. That's all.
Yeah, I'm in agreement and alignment with a lot of what Cody said. The sort of, and I've talked to Jim and Liz about this proposal as well. I have questions, and I think this isn't the right time or stage. I think oftentimes we often jump to why we can't do something or what the challenges will be. I'm actually gladdened by the fact that this project seems to be starting with, hey, what's possible? What would be the best? However, I do want to ensure that this project moves forward in a way that's aligned with the city's long-term fiscal commitments to the rest of our park system, and in a way that is responsible financially for maintaining the already pretty extensive investments that as a community we've made in lots of trails and parks and acres and the pool and many other things. I am, I really hope that Jim and Liz are right, that this doesn't cost the city anything ever, and that the solar panels, end up making enough money to support the thing for decades and decades. But I think it's really important that not just be something that we hope is true, but that we actually make sure it's true before we build something that the taxpayers would inevitably be on the hook for taking care of in perpetuity. I guess I've also been a part of enough major building projects from behind this dais to at least, worry that the numbers bandied about in terms of 1.75 to $2 million. I'd love it if that were true. I just, I'd like to see better numbers. And all of this is really to get at my wider point, which is that I'm with, the mayor and Cody and others and Jim and Liz. I think green space in the middle of our community is sorely needed. I think it would be tremendous for Decorah to have a heart like that matches our like our musical soul, that there should be a place where we put that on display. I'm in favor of that. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that as a council, we have decided to invest a great deal of money in developing a master parks plan for the city over the course of this year. And I personally think that the conversation about something like this needs to happen in concert with conversations about the future of the rest of our park system, and specifically conversations that take very seriously the fiscal realities that as a community we can't just be good at building things that seem like a good idea. We have to make sure there's a good plan to take care of them. And I don't think we've done that work yet, and I think it needs to be an important part of this project if it's to go forward.
If I can build on that, I shared some of the same sentiment. I know I briefly emailed Jim and Liz back. before I get into that, I do want to say thank you for bringing this immense and amazing idea forth. It is a great potential asset to the community. To Steve's point, one of the main concerns I brought up was, that financial component that, we say, in this presentation, it's on paper, it says we're not on the hook, but that's not a guarantee. And that's something that, for me, I really would like that guarantee to say, okay, like we have that trackable component that does correlate back to that. And I know a lot of us up here know that the biggest thing for us is moving forward is if what we have becomes less and less, and then we do commit to something and we say there's no potential cost, but then there is incurred cost, and then that comes at the burden of the taxpayer, how are we going to effectively maintain and upkeep? And I'm not saying that to discredit anything, because obviously, like I said, I appreciate the work that you set forth. You've taken the time, you've come and present this to us. That's just a real concern. And I think it's a real concern, not just for a lot of us up here, but a lot of governing entities all over the state. And I think that's something that we really have to take into consideration, in the overall conversation. Some of the other concerns I shared in my initial email, based on your presentation tonight, those really appease some of those concerns that I had, that I shared. So I really appreciate you taking the time to go in depth in your presentation in some of those components, in conjunction. I know we said with you guys brought up about some of the other projects that are going on and collaboratively working with those to make sure things run in tandem. And I know that was a major concern that I shared in my email. So I appreciate you touching on that and expressing ways that you could work in harmony or coexistence. So.
I would add that I think the project is extremely exciting. I think everything has been covered about green space downtown. Totally appreciate Fritz's bringing this to us, having this vision. I do believe that vision is sort of seeing the invisible and then making it happen. And I love the notion that, okay, so this is all through private foundations and you're going to get a fundraising group and that's all. But I do want to draw into the reality of it will cost the city something and it will definitely cost time. And I do know probably a year ago, we were sitting here and our city manager saying, we're at max capacity. So I think one thing we have to address is I would like to say, okay, let's keep going down this path, but I don't want to say this is a path we're 100% on. Let's go do it full speed ahead. Like I think that there are questions that have to be answered. What will be the project cost? And also, what's the who's the committee, who's gonna fundraise, who's gonna write grants, and how does that work? And if a group of citizens can come to the city in that kind of partnership where we have city staff advising, but this committee is really saying, we're going to work hard over the next year to try to raise, or 6 months. And if we can raise $1.5 million in the next 6 months, we're going to know a lot more. I don't know how it works. I'm just throwing things out there, but I do want to be cognizant that dollars aren't just like city resources aren't just dollars. It is very much city staff. And I do know that we have lots of major projects happening, and I believe in this project. I think we need it. I think it would be great. But I also want to get into the weeds, not here, but whatever our next charge is, I do think it's important to stress that. So.
I'm all in. I love it. I was in Arizona this past weekend with current and past Decorah residents, and we played the game of what is Decorah missing? And downtown green space was literally the first answer. And I was like, yes, I'm so excited to tell you what's happening at City Council on Monday night. And I spent 13 plus years working on this block. I've lived on this block for some amount of time. It would be so cool the synergy around this particular location makes me very excited. It's in line with the 2018 community visioning project that we poured a lot of heart and soul in. And I'm loving that even though it's taken a really long time, there's like trickle effects of implementing those things. And this would be so much cooler than the pictures of the bump outs I take that I love every time I walk by them. Yeah, and so I mean, I'd love to see us move forward and get more information. And I like just want to be clear. I think that when we have investment opportunities like this in Decorah, that the city should be expecting to put dollars into this. And that doesn't mean it needs to be significant, and that decision could be made after we see what fundraising looks like. But I think we should be in for the value that our community could get from having this community space that I think we've long talked about.
Anyone? No, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just had a question. I'm just curious, like the next steps. Like now we have a vision. This is not our expertise. This is your expertise, Travis. Like in terms of what do you need to see or have happen, or how do you see? We love this vision. We want to make it happen. We know where city resources are. Like,
Shout out to Travis with the full plate too. I gave it
It is staff to a great degree as well. And, you know, I do appreciate council's acknowledgement of everything that's going on right now. And so it is listed as a possible action so that if, you know, I have heard from at least 4 council members, 5 in general, that are wanting to explore this with some caveats. So don't necessarily need action to continue the conversation with the Fritzes, but one of the things I see that we need is to establish timelines. You know, one of the council member Zittergrun's comment earlier on the consent agenda, that one project on the Anderson building, I have spent more time on that project over 3 years than nearly every other project. And, you know, I'm not necessarily lumping the Fritzes into this conversation, but I found myself holding the same meeting over and over and over again, explaining the exact same thing with no movement. So with that, one of the things that would greatly help me is if there are timelines and checkpoints that, okay, the city council is interested in advancing this discussion along. By July 1, you need to have X in place. Maybe that's the LLC, as well as if $300,000 in IRA credits are going to be needed, then they need $300,000 and enough to cover the purchase of the canopies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, establish checkpoints so that this isn't a project that drags on for 3 years. That is at the end of the project, the city's last, you know, we have to put the money in to make the project actually advance. So I think having a series of checkpoints would greatly help this. Individual guidance on what, if there's anything you want to make sure that's listed in there, I can certainly work with John, as well as John Yelly and Mike O'Hara and Todd Eady on, from a city perspective, what are the things we're going to need in place. For example, we could extend underground utilities to the right-of-way property line with the Hively Phase 2, and maybe that is, if it is truly going to be at no cost to the city, that means X dollars need to be raised by this time so that we can extend those utilities to the property line, regardless of where we're at with the rest of the project. So we can do all that stuff, but that's the biggest thing, is making sure this project doesn't drag on.
Mm-hmm. That's helpful.
It's easier to keep momentum among staff as well.
Could I jump in for a moment, or someone else want to?
I just have one question, Jim, for Travis on that end, if you don't mind, and then we'll go to you.
About the funding for it long term, I wanted to kind of confirm the fact that there are about 212 kilowatts of solar, which would produce about $36,000 per year at 12 cents a kilowatt hour. So the $36,000 amount would operate the park itself And like I said earlier, it could be sold as a PPA, which is then funding for long-term maintenance. So the costs that I had mentioned in the 1.5 to 175, I actually have done quite a lot of bid acquisition. I wouldn't say I've got 100% of it yet, but I would say I have more than 75% of it, which gives me pretty good confidence that I'm close. We also have a committee that would be very willing to do the yeoman's work as far as the setting up the fundraising and all those issues. We just have to be allowed to work with the city and know specifically what you need from us, and we will try to do the work ourselves. The biggest deadline is July 4, 2026. If we have not put down about $100,000, which is about 10% of the cost of the solar, then that goes away. And I would not expect that $100,000 to come from the city. If we have to, we'll go to one of the banks and take a loan. We want to provide the plans to the city without the city having to invest. So all of the front loading we would like to take care of through our 501c3. And we are already in the process of creating that. It could be done relatively quickly.
I have two questions now. My first one was to build out utilities to the site. When we're doing Hively, what would the cost if the city just did that? Like if we did that anyway, if we said at some point we might want development in that area, regardless of whether we do this, right? This is what we want, but what are we talking in terms of utilities to that site?
I wouldn't know off the top of my head. This is going to be a ballpark at best, 10 to 15.
Because that's the kind of thing where I'm like, I feel like the city should just build utilities to the site. We could just say, you should build utilities to the site.
Here's the but.
Yeah.
Or and, yes, and.
But and.
Yes.
I like and but.
So I'm trying. Yes, and we try to avoid any unnecessary extensions like that because they're failure points, right? So especially, let's say, hypothetically speaking, this project doesn't advance, but there's an 80-foot section of service that's run under the ground. There's no meter on the other end to figure out if there's water flowing out of it. That pipe fails. Now we've got a water leak and no way to catch it until we see water bubbling its way to the street surface and into the street. And it's even worse if we have a sanitary sewer service that would likely be installed side by side, benched. What ends up happening then is we never see the water come to the surface because it infiltrates into the sanitary and goes right down the sanitary.
And so when does that decision need to be made? What's the timeline on that? So that maybe sets a...
We haven't had a pre-con on that project yet. More than likely, they'll start on the lower side of Hively and move uphill. Sorry. So I would say April, May. We'll see as conditions. I mean, 60 degrees. We shut the boiler off today, so we wouldn't all roast to death in here. But
okay, so that should be one of our first timelines is maybe April 1st. We need to know blank so that we can decide what we're doing with utilities, right? My other question is that I think I want to know is what's the city's capacity to operate as a PPA, right? So would we have to become a utility? And is that even possible? And how does that work?
right. So when I met with Jim and Liz, that was one of the questions I asked because my understanding is there was a question on whether we could even operate the EV chargers because the argument was you can't sell electricity. You can't wholesale electricity.
I mean, we could just have the MEU vote again. Sorry.
Lower that number to fire me.
Sorry. Oh, that utility sure would have gone.
But I know that was a question on the EV chargers was as a city without the ability to operate municipal electric, how can you sell electricity? So when I asked Jim about the PPA, I said, my understanding is there's some kind of, whether it's a license or something that you have to get. I'm not that familiar on the seller side. We have 2 PPAs in place, but we buy electricity. Jim explained that First Lutheran, is that the right church?
Good Shepherd.
Sorry.
Good Shepherd.
Good Shepherd currently has PPA for the solar panels, that he is familiar with the seller side and that it didn't require any additional licensing on that front. But that is something we would need to explore further.
Okay, I would explore that, and also wondering, could our communications utility operate as a PPA? Because we have a communications utility, so could they also then sell electricity?
Well, if we could, the general fund can use any help it can.
Yeah,
I feel like there's a very
Yeah,
large
just things
mixed
to explore.
enterprise
I
funds
just,
going
I
on
just,
here.
I want to know that answer, not to stop the project, but these are the things I think need to be figured out early.
So
Costs, future costs associated with this, sorry, didn't mean to cut off, but keep in mind, all future costs, whether they are offset by PPA revenues or not, are gonna have to come out of the general fund.
Right, of
So,
course.
like the restroom facilities, whether it's the utilities inside, or, we also don't have staff, janitorial staff. We contract out, janitorial cleaning services here. I know the library, they're actually trying to get a new contract individual there. We would have to either contract, this site as well, or, based on our previous experiences with publicly available restrooms, we'd have to have somebody that would be able to respond within a very short timeline of something needing addressed.
So I'm looking at the clock and I feel like there's a lot of consensus up here.
Thank you.
So summarizing where we are, we would be interested in some staff time dedicated towards identifying a list of potential opportunities that might align with this project and dates. And I think that could also include key questions to council about like when questions would need to be asked. So that April date felt important to that way. And I'm hearing that there are committed citizens that might contribute and ideas to that. And I think you've got at least me, if not other council members, that be willing to facilitate a quick meeting. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, like you, Emily, I have questions and I have ideas and like solutions of that block. And that doesn't feel like tonight. Did you get the direction you needed for next steps?
Yep, make it happen.
I just want to make sure that you heard my concern that the finances be really clear before we move forward too far, and not just the how do we get it built, but how's it taken care of in perpetuity. I just think as a matter of good governance, we need to know what we'd be on the hook for, and I have lots of questions about, it may be that I just don't understand how PPAs work, but I think you can only sell this one behind the same meter. So I want to reality check this, and that said, I think it's worth spending some time to see, if this is a way forward. I'm excited about it.
So could we say by April 1st that we would get a more detailed budget with better understanding of costs and a understanding of what we could get from solar panels as a city and how we could do it? Like, could we get those things by April 1st, knowing that we need to make sure that would be the utility discussion then about whether we bring utilities to the site? Or is that too big of an ask?
We could provide much of what you're asking for. Our only problem is that we will be on vacation through much of April and May. And so we leave on the 3rd of April. And if the more that we could do up front to try to avoid missing the July 4th deadline, that's the critical elements at this stage. And we are going to be home again on May 2nd. We could be back, or March 2nd. We could be back for your next meeting if you would like us there present, and we could have more specifics. Or if we want to have a work meeting at a different time, that's a possibility as well.
Well, I think it's staff time that I'm worried about too. March 2nd seems like a quick turnaround for, maybe it's not.
Depends what the flavor of the week is next week on what we need to address at the council level. I mean, there was certainly a lot of hours spent on activity I wouldn't have expected this past week.
Right. And maybe it's like some of that stuff we could tell you, just ignore it. Can you ignore it?
So
send it to Andy. He's the
Travis, is a formal motion needed?
Okay.
If a formal motion is not needed, shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Fritzes. We appreciate your time.
Thank
Look
you.
forward
Thank
to
you
hearing
very
back
much.
from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 9. Conduct public hearing on proposal to enter into a essential purpose loan agreement. Open that public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on that? Seeing none, hearing none. Close the public hearing. Discussion. Sorry. Number 10. Consider resolution taking additional action on proposal to enter into an essential purpose loan agreement, combining loan agreements and providing for the levy of taxes to pay general obligation corporate purpose bonds, series 2026A.
Lively.
Correct.
And the fire truck.
And the fire truck.
And
I would move to take out the loan.
Second.
Motion by Chisel, seconded by Neal.
If I may, one thing I just want to note real quickly is this resolution also is the pre-debt levy resolution. So it does allow, it doesn't require us to use the full debt service levy for repayment in the first fiscal year. So we can apply this to fiscal 27. Again, allows, doesn't require.
Will there be a chance for me to vote against it if we move? When are we going to actually have that discussion or an up or down vote on it?
Yeah, we can have that as a separate action item potentially on the budget discussion, have it as a separate item.
Yeah, I'm in favor of moving forward with this. I just want to make, I think I've made my point clear about the funding stream. So, yeah.
I'll be a second to add that to a future agenda if you need it.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chisel. Neal.
Aye.
Miscelinich.
Aye.
Bergen.
Aye.
Zittergrun.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Number 11, conduct public hearing on amending Title 17 zoning of the Decorah Municipal Code, Sections 17.68.040, 17.72.040, and 17.76.040 regarding residential bulk regulations. Any discussion? Motion? Sorry. Bear with me.
It's getting late.
Open up the yeah, we've almost been here for 2 hours. Opening the public hearing. Any comments? Seeing none, hearing none, closing it. Number 12, consider ordinance amending Title 17 zoning of the Decorah Municipal Code, Sections 17.68.040, 17.72.040, and 17.76.040 regarding residential bulk regulations. First reading.
For approval.
Second.
Motion by Chisel, second by Bergen. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Can we just get a quick rundown before, one of the discussions I had on a Tuesday night was about, setbacks, the 5 foot setback. I know that we're pushing time, but can we just get just a quick
Yep.
little?
So in a nutshell, state of Iowa adopted legislation with ADUs that made it required across the state, but it also said that all ADUs across state must abide by the same principal zoning requirements. So that meant for Decorah, a detached was nearly impossible because you had to build the ADU in the same spot as your principal structure, because we have setbacks that say you're supposed to build it here. So what this ordinance is doing is it's expanding that buildable area to cover much more of the lot. You know, again, rear setback would be 5, front setback 10, side staying at 8, but it adds a maximum developed lot coverage. So in your R1 single family zoning, in order to try and still maintain that single family character, if you will, it's 40%. In the R2, it's 50. In R3, it's 75%. These numbers aren't just arbitrary. I actually came up with them based on taking the minimum lot square footage requirements in each one of those zoning areas and said, okay, if I have a 2,000 square foot principal structure and I wanted to do a 1,000 square foot garage and a 1,000 square foot ADU, again, all would be allowed by code. What does that equate to? And that's how I came up with those percentages.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Bergen.
Aye.
Zittergrun.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Ms. Lynch.
Aye.
Did we hear any other public comment, Travis?
I have not. I saw Craig sitting there. I apologize. I probably should have pointed at him.
Yeah, I can't make sense out of all the numbers you guys got. My name's Craig Child, 406 East Main Street, Decorah, Iowa, 52101.
Thanks, Craig. Just as a quick point of order, Mayor Carlson, can
Yeah.
you reopen the public hearing?
Yeah, I'll reopen the public hearing.
Thank you.
And I built our new house last year. I was here a year ago and got all the permits, got it built. And I got a garage in the back of it that I want to turn into an ADU. And I'd never even heard the word before a year ago. And so Travis told me about it. Our great building inspector told me about it. So I ran sewer and water back there so that I will be ahead of the game for once in my life. Seriously. And now all of a sudden this kind of stuff comes up thanks to our great governor. And I'm just wondering what it's going to affect me, Travis. You kind of mentioned that it might not, but because I'm really close, I'm like 3 feet on the side toward Fairway. I'm far enough off the alley and I'm far enough from our house and everything else, but it's just that one side.
Yeah, I think your side's still potentially going to be an
Yeah.
issue, which would have been the case. Maybe not as bad, but still the case regardless. You would have needed a variance on that side, but it's all going to largely depend on what you decide for your footprint of that ADU.
I'm not-
Are you just going to leave the garage as it is?
Saying
not
I'm just
expand
going
on
to
it?
fix it up into a little ADU apartment and rent
Okay.
it out so we can help pay for our taxes in this beautiful town.
That you are right. So, like I said, it's not really going to change any aspects for the worse for you. You're still going to have to get a variance on that side yard, which you would have needed to before anyway. But your front and rear, it actually, again, front yard's not applicable for this situation. Your rear, it brings it to that 5-foot setback, which
Oh, yeah.
was the accessory building setback we had before.
So I shouldn't have I should just have to get my variance on the west side, I'm going to call it.
Correct,
or
on the side yard.
which I was expecting to have to do anyway.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
don't
Craig.
drop. We don't have any officers here.
She's fine. She's back there yet. Thanks, you guys,
Thank
for
you, Craig.
everything you're doing
Appreciate,
too.
appreciate asking questions. Close public hearing. All right, we able to move on, Travis?
Yep.
13, consider resolution adopting Iowa Length of Service Award Program and authorizing application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority. Travis, you want to give a little background on that?
Yeah, so the Iowa Length of Service Award Program, commonly referred to as LOSAP, it's a brand new program at the state level designed around volunteer public safety individuals. So what our proposal is, the fire department currently has 30 volunteer members. So in addition to their pay per call that we contribute, the city contributes $12 per month per volunteer to an account that's paid out to them upon retirement. What we would like to do is request that we convert this payment to a contribution to a 457E plan, which is required for this LOSAP, and apply for that LOSAP program. That would then double because the state's grant is a 1-to-1 match. So then our volunteers will qualify for $24 per month for their retirement. Again, it would be in a 457E account, which is a requirement to participate. The resolution is also required to establish who it's with. So we would, Knox Financial in town is one of the few providers of these. They're very specific type of programs. And Lincoln Financial would be the broker. So they are listed in the proposed resolution as well. Application deadline was actually extended to February 27th because of kind of the short timeline on these getting established and fire departments trying to get them underway.
Just a note that I'll recuse myself from discussion and vote as my spouse is a volunteer firefighter.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we adopt the Iowa Length of Service Award Program and authorize application to the Iowa Economic Development Authority.
Second.
Any further discussion? Motion by Neal, seconded by Whittle. Roll call.
Neal?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Zittergren?
Aye.
Chisel?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Miscellaneous?
Aye.
And Bergen. Thank you.
Okay, motion passes unanimously with one abstention. Number 14, consider resolution authorizing application of RPA 1 UERPC FY 2030 Surface Transportation Block Grant STBG swap funding.
Sorry for that mouthful.
I was going to say,
So RPA is short for Regional Planning Authority. UERPC is Upper Explore Land,
Okay.
their full acronym. So they administer the STBG funds or Surface Transportation Block Grant. The current application period that's now open is actually for fiscal 30 funding. However, there is the potential that that funding is released sooner than that. And so the proposed resolution would authorize the city staff to apply the current project estimated cost, which does include the trail running along Highway 9 in the area that we're doing the rock blasting in conjunction with the DOT's project, as well as an 8-inch water main extension to get under that trail. So that's a small portion of this, but total project estimated cost $500,000. Grant requires 20% local match, so that would mean we're on for $100,000, and the application would be for $400,000 of STBG funding. Again, fiscal 30 would be what we're applying for, but it potentially could come sooner. And if it is, we would be ready to move forward with hotel motel tax revenues on that one. The council contingency ones, not the park rec ones.
Make a motion to authorize application for the block grant.
Second.
Is that Steve?
Yeah.
motion by Neil, seconded by Zittigeren. Any further discussion?
Travis, just a quick question. When we were out looking at that potential blasting site together, you mentioned, is this the grant that you mentioned that Decorah is in line for, it gets every so many years? So using it for this would mean we couldn't use it for something else in 2030?
A portion of. So this has a really weird baked into Upper Explorer Land, the way they do their allocation for swap funding. The city of Decorah essentially has a bank of funds available that is currently, all right, John just said just over 800,000 currently. So this would be applied towards that bank of projects. The TAP is the one that's a little bit more competitive, and it's just, you have to wait your time. But this one is, over time, it just builds a bank. Then you apply every once in a while, every so often, to get those funds. So in all likelihood, we should be awarded this project.
But
this grant.
I guess then, I having heard the answer, which I appreciate that you clarified that for me, like it helps me to know that this isn't like free money that we're hoping we get. This is kind of spending down a bank of money that's already set aside with our name earmarked on it.
Under their
Right, we could use it
funding
for,
model.
but we could use it for other things. And I'm not saying we should. I think might as well use it if it's there. But I just didn't want us to have the wrong impression that this was sort of a grant that was out there that this, we could grab. That this is money that already has Decorah's name on it. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Neal?
Aye.
Zittergren?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Miscellaneous?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
And Chisel.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 15, discussion and possible action on ordinance amending 15.12 building code to provide for adoption of state of Iowa standards and rules related to buildings, possible first reading.
Okay, so we listed this as discussion and possible action because we don't like to try and put an ordinance in front of council for a first reading without previous discussion. Unfortunately, with this one, there's not a lot of wiggle room. The state of Iowa adopted new building codes that went into effect in October, and the cities were given a grace period of 1 year to get ours updated. So asked John. John worked with Greg quite a bit on amending or drafting a proposed ordinance that would amend our building code and adopt the same building codes within the state code by reference. There are some exceptions in there where not exceptions, but instead of just saying we adopt the state building code by reference, it is partially segmented out by adopting just the same code references they make as well.
Apologies for not calling or emailing about this. I think we were all busy with lots of things this week. Is there an easy way to tell us what changed? And also, do we have any
It doesn't.
option?
So that's just it. There's not a lot of option. I mean, in theory, under existing code, we could be more stringent, but there's legislation that actually removes that. That's proposed right now. So I don't know that I would go down that path of looking at adopting more stringent building code. But I don't know, in talking with Greg, he's been reviewing this since October. And what's abnormal about this update is the state, usually it lags behind a bit, where they've approved the 2024 building codes for many of these things, and usually they'll adopt one back. So it would have been like the 21 updates. So this was unusual. Greg's been going through them through October. Has reported to me that there's not a vast change on the building code at this point. Any highlights, Greg, that you can really call out?
Yeah, there's nothing major, just a lot of clarifications on existing codes, some few minor updates, but nothing overall that's going to shock anybody. Some of the clarifications were basically put more in layman's terms so contractors could understand things easier, but nothing overall major.
So there's not like a list or track changes or.
Well, our track changes would, because our code just references all these by
We
code.
don't have anything in our code. Okay.
And each one of these codes are, well, now they didn't even do books. Well, they do books, but they all have QR codes in them.
Yeah, the book is just as thick. Like the residential code is still about 2.5 inches thick with the same size print that's on our agendas. And they also added QR codes, which if you go on a particular section, you'll go in there and you'll see another 3 pages of how it explains all these things. So it actually, if it was an actually written book, it'd probably be about a 5-inch thick book.
Thank you.
When I joined council, I really appreciated that I could sit down in an afternoon and read all of our ordinances. Like I think, it's a basic expectation of good government that people be able to understand and follow the law without having, too many lawyers and specialists between them and the law. And then we adopted this building code by reference, which I think, was formalizing what was already true, that is every building in Iowa has to abide to code. Whether or not your local government makes you do it or not is kind of beside the point. But we have this building code. I will again acknowledge that we're getting late, as others have, and not talk as long as I want to about how stupid so much contained within our building codes are. But the same sort of emotion, frustration with state government, with bureaucratic processes that, lead through a series of well-meaning, but, great decisions that you end up with a 3-inch thick book that tells people, you have to freeze development in your downtown, basically, unless someone wants to come in and adopt a building as a charity case. Like that's what our building code effectively functions to do. And makes it very easy to, this is not a coincidence, I think, build the kinds of new projects that lead to lots of construction, lots of sprawl, lots of pavement, lots of freestanding sheet metal buildings at the edge of town. The building code makes that fairly simple and straightforward, and that's why so much new development is that way. This is a place where, the fix isn't obvious. It's not like we can just reject this or not, but long term, I do think that Decorah and other communities, if they want to see good building happening, like has always happened in Decorah's history in the heart of our community, we should push back a little bit. I don't know how or where, but our legislatures need to hear that a building code shouldn't just function for new construction that's easy to inspect. It should function to allow community members to invest in their existing infrastructure and in their existing towns. So that's the end of my sermon since it's late. But this is terribly annoying to have to vote yes on.
I hate to extend the conversation, but one thing I really want to drive home, Councilmember Zittiger pointed out, this is the statewide building code for consideration at this point, which is supposed to be adhered by every building in the state of Iowa. Now, just because you might live in a political subdivision that doesn't have a building code official or anybody that's paying attention to what's going on doesn't mean you aren't also supposed to be abiding by these. So I hear it frequently from people that say, well, if I was doing this elsewhere, I wouldn't have to pay this or do this. Well, you would actually, because state code says you would, but you don't have to because nobody's watching you. That's the difference.
I'd move for approval of the amendment to our building code and adopt the state code.
I'll second. Motion by Chisel, seconded by Parker. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Chisel?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Misselinich?
Aye.
Bergen?
Aye.
Sittergren?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 16. This is my appointment. I just have a little statement I wanted to read. I'm pleased to put forward Brad Wicks as my choice for appointment to the Decorah Planning and Zoning Commission. Brad has been a resident of Decorah for 64 years and is owner, semi-retired, of Wicks Construction, a business he has successfully operated for over 4 decades. Over that time, he's developed a deep understanding of how communities grow, how infrastructure decisions affects residents and businesses, and how thoughtful planning can either strengthen or hinder a city's long-term success. Brad brings extensive hands-on experience that is directly relevant to the work of the Planning and Zoning Commission. His career in the concrete and construction industry has given him practical insight into zoning regulations, land use, site development, and real-world impacts of planning decisions. Having worked in many different cities, he has seen both effective and ineffective approaches to planning and development, and he understands what works and inversely what does not work from a builder's and community perspective. In addition to his professional background, Brad has a strong record of public service and leadership, including prior service to the Decorah Airport Commission, St. Benedict's School, and the Iowa Concrete Paving Association, where he served as board president. These roles reflect his willingness to contribute his time, experience, and judgment in service to the broader community. On a personal level, I've known Brad for many years and known him to be fair, honest, and thoughtful individual who approaches issues with integrity. He cares deeply about Decorah and the consistently, considers what is best for the community as a whole. His stated goal is to help make informed decisions based on past experience, which aligns well with the responsibility and mission of the Planning and Zoning Commission. For these reasons, I believe Brad Wicks would be a valuable and steady presence on the P&Z Commission, bringing experience, perspective, and a genuine commitment to the future of Decorah. I will say his resume / application wasn't huge. I did ask him to submit one, and I was accused earlier of asking people to submit applications, which is true. When you are onboarding as mayor, you see holes and you see vacancies in these committees and commissions, and you try to find people who are interested in serving. And I knew Brad had put forth his name earlier, and I asked him if he would submit another application, and he did, so I appreciate that. I also was contacted by Kirsten Olson, a former council person, and by the mayor, past mayor, Mayor Borowski, who both supported this as well. So open it for discussion.
I would move for approval of Brad as planning and zoning.
I'll second. Motion by Chisel, second by Parker. Any further discussion?
I appreciate, Andy, your sharing of additional information and regarding Brad's experience, as we were not able to see that extensive information in the application we received. I spoke with Brad today and did not hear all of those things as well. So again, just thanks, Andy. I cannot support this appointment. I have significant concerns about the representation of industry on our planning and zoning. I do not feel confident that folks with perceived or real conflicts of interest can serve effectively in what I think is our most important commission. My message to Brad and to everyone is like, I'd love to see your application on anything, Board of Adjustment, run for Park and Rec, serve on the Airport Commission again. This is not a stance against any individual and most definitely not a stance about Brad. This is about a concern for the commission that is responsible for being our key advisors in determining the way Decorah plans for its future.
I also spoke with Brad today, and I do want to also stress that this is not about any individual who applies, but it is about the balance of boards. And I think the last time that his application was up for P&Z, I made the same comment that I will make now, that I do, like Johanna, fundamentally disagree or think that our boards and commissions, especially when it comes to how we develop, while developers and contractors make great advisors and consultants, I think having them on a board that determines how we grow is a conflict of interest. So I will leave it at that. And I will, I also do not support this application.
I would also like to add on, obviously we have heard some community correspondence, especially with former Councilmember Olson. And I'll kind of share exactly what I shared with him. I do agree, and I appreciate Andy for going in depth regarding Brad's qualifications. But at the end of the day, an established pattern that I've seen is that, we do need that diversity that represents our community on these commissions. And the pattern that I've continued to see is that we continue to appoint individuals with similar interests. And I think we really needed to diversify that. In addition, I feel like, at least for me, we're lacking that representation of younger residents. And I know at the end of the day, this is a commission that we need that experience on, but it goes back to that age-old euphemism of, if you don't give somebody a chance to have that experience, how are they going to garner it? And I'm going to be honest, I, shared with KO as well in my response to him that that's part of the reason that I ran for council, is because I applied 5 times for commissions prior to running for council. And I think, overall, we just need to go back to that finite point of, we need to have that diverse community perspective, especially, we have to consider what's going to be the tomorrow for our community, and having a balanced perspective of individuals that are on that commission, not just P&Z, but in general, I think needs to be reflected across the city structure as a whole.
Any other comments? Concerns from
I was
council?
just gonna say, what a bunch of hypocrites, because the last time we voted Brad down, we put another contractor on unanimously after that, and we've had past contractors in the past on this board, so why don't you just come out and say you don't like Brad?
No, I will not. It has nothing to do with Brad. I don't know who you're referring to on P&Z, but I will say it has absolutely nothing to do with Brad.
And I would agree with that. I don't think it has to do anything with the person as a whole. I agree he has the qualifications, but like, as I shared, I think we need to have a finite balance in the people on our commission.
So call outs, Randy.
Qualified people on.
No, that's not true. Randy, if you look at their applications, just the applications of the people who submitted the actual application, including Brad, if you were to read Brad's application, there is nothing in that would make you think that he was qualified compared to the other applications. The other applications were thorough and detailed and presented a vision of Decorah. Now, again, this is nothing personally against Brad, and I really resent you saying that. I had a great conversation with Brad. In fact, after talking to him, I really had to reflect in terms of what is it that I really do think about these appointments. Because I do think he's a great guy. He had a lot of things to say that I was like, spot on, I agree with. But I fundamentally don't believe that we should fill our P&Z with contractors and developers. I don't think that's fair to the people of Decorah. They have an inherent conflict of interest. A current member of P&Z, I think, should be recusing themselves every vote, and they don't.
I guess I was unaware of that. Is this an ongoing issue?
this is a concern that I've held for a number of years, observing planning and zoning meetings, as well as being a most recent planning and zoning member. And I don't, again, this is not at all about any single individual. It's about the fact that I served next to a Skyline employee on planning and zoning for a year, and the absolute best, most compelling, valuable contribution that he made that completely changed my opinion about something was when he talked about being a dad and walking his kids to John Klein. And we see and hear so little of that, of how I live in the community. And instead, we hear about industry perspectives and the bids that are in front of us and questions before and after with staff about progress and updates. And I am super comfortable with P&Z as it membership stands right now. However, I have lived experience that provides me to be very clear that I cannot support additional industrial perspectives with considerable potential conflict of interest on the commission.
Any further comments? I just have to wholeheartedly disagree. I think that his experience is an asset, not a liability. And I think he has integrity, and I think he would recuse himself if anything were to present itself as a conflict of interest. Just my personal opinion. Roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Parker. Aye. Misselinich.
No.
Bergen.
No.
Zittergren.
No.
Whittle.
No.
Neal.
No.
Appointment fails 2-5. Item number 17, board and commission vacancies. We still have spot on sustainability and now P&Z.
There are applications.
Noting that you have 3 strong
Yeah,
applications
you
for
have
planning
3
and
strong
zoning.
applications in for P&Z.
All right. Any other matters? Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.